In the vast expanse of the cosmos, where stars burn like distant candles and planets are but specks of dust, humanity's reach had finally extended beyond the confines of the solar system. They had dreamed of touching the stars for centuries, and now that dream had become a reality. The year was 2178, and the United Earth Federation had established colonies on distant worlds, trading partners among the stars, and even alliances with alien civilizations. The latest of these alliances was with the Eltarans, a species known for their advanced technology, powerful military, and complex social structures. The Eltaran kingdom, led by King Zorath, was one of the most influential empires in the galaxy. Their homeworld, Eltara Prime, was a jewel of the cosmos, with towering crystalline cities and lush, vibrant landscapes. The Eltarans themselves were a humanoid species, but with striking differences: iridescent skin that shimmered in different colors under various lights, elongated limbs, and eyes that glowed with an otherworldly light. Captain Alex Mason, a decorated officer in the United Earth Federation Space Fleet, had been selected to represent humanity in a high-stakes diplomatic mission to Eltara Prime. The mission was simple on the surface: secure a trade agreement and strengthen the alliance between Earth and Eltara. But Alex knew that the stakes were much higher. The Eltarans held technology that could revolutionize Earth's energy production, medicine, and defense systems. In exchange, Earth would offer resources and military support against the Eltarans' enemies. As Alex's starship, the USS Horizon, approached Eltara Prime, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. The planet's surface was a kaleidoscope of colors, with oceans of deep blue and forests of emerald green. The cities, visible even from space, were breathtaking, massive spires of crystal and metal that seemed to defy the laws of physics. But there was also a sense of trepidation. The Eltarans were known to be enigmatic and unpredictable. While their alliance with Earth was strong on paper, Alex had heard rumors of past diplomats who had failed to navigate the intricacies of Eltaran politics. As the Horizon entered orbit around Eltara Prime, Alex received a transmission from the surface. The holographic display in front of him flickered to life, revealing the image of an Eltaran official. Tall, with skin that shimmered like liquid gold and eyes that glowed a soft blue. "Captain Mason," the official said in a voice that was both melodic and commanding, "welcome to Eltara Prime. His Majesty King Zorath awaits your arrival in the Royal Palace. Please prepare for transport." Alex nodded, his mind racing with the possibilities that lay ahead. "Thank you. I'm ready to be transported." A few moments later, Alex found himself standing in the heart of the Royal Palace. The grandeur of the palace was beyond anything he had ever imagined. The walls were made of translucent crystal that seemed to pulse with a gentle light, casting the entire chamber in a soft glow. The floor beneath his feet was smooth and cool, made of a material that looked like marble but felt softer, almost like walking on a cloud. In the center of the chamber stood King Zorath. He was even more imposing in person than in the images Alex had seen. The Eltaran king was tall, easily over 7 feet, and his presence commanded attention. His skin was a deep metallic blue, and his eyes glowed a fierce red. He wore a robe of silver that seemed to ripple and flow like water, and on his head rested a crown made of what looked like pure energy, crackling with tiny arcs of electricity. "Captain Alex Mason," King Zorath's voice echoed through the chamber, deep and resonant. "Welcome to my kingdom." Alex bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, it's an honor to be here." King Zorath studied Alex for a moment, his red eyes piercing. "I have heard much about humanity's accomplishments. You have made impressive strides for a young species. But tell me, Captain, what do you seek from the Eltarans?" Alex straightened, meeting the king's gaze. "We seek friendship and cooperation, Your Majesty. We believe that by working together, both our species can benefit greatly. Earth has resources and technologies that could complement what the Eltarans have developed. In exchange, we hope to learn from your advanced sciences and form a mutual defense pact." The king nodded slowly, as if considering Alex's words. "Indeed, your people are ambitious, which is both admirable and dangerous. But before we discuss any agreements, there is something I must show you." With a wave of his hand, King Zorath summoned a holographic display in the center of the chamber. The image that appeared was of a vast fleet, hundreds of Eltaran warships, each one bristling with weapons and energy shields. "This," the king said, his voice taking on a more serious tone, "is the Eltaran royal fleet. It is the most powerful armada in this sector of the galaxy. We have protected our world and our allies for millennia, but there are forces out there that even we cannot defeat alone." The image shifted to show a dark, foreboding region of space, where swirling clouds of energy and debris obscured the stars. "This is the Void," King Zorath continued, "a region of space that lies beyond the borders of our kingdom. It is home to an ancient enemy, a race known as the Enthar. They are a scourge upon the galaxy, driven by a single purpose: to consume all life." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard whispers of the Enthar during his time in the fleet, an almost mythical species that was said to be unstoppable, but seeing the Void and hearing the king speak of them brought a new level of reality to the threat. "The Enthar are coming," King Zorath said, his voice grim. "And when they do, they will not stop until everything we know and love is destroyed. That is why I am willing to consider an alliance with Earth. Together, we may stand a chance against them." Alex took a deep breath, absorbing the weight of the king's words. "Your Majesty, if the Enthar are as dangerous as you say, then an alliance is not just a possibility. It's a necessity. Earth will stand with Eltara against this threat." The king's eyes softened slightly. "Good. But there is one more matter to discuss before we can formalize our agreement." Alex raised an eyebrow, curious. "What is it, Your Majesty?" King Zorath gestured toward a side door, which slid open silently. A figure stepped out, a young Eltaran woman, her skin a soft lavender hue, and her eyes glowing a gentle green. She was dressed in a flowing gown that shimmered with every step she took. Her features were delicate, almost ethereal, and her presence immediately filled the room with a sense of calm and grace. "This is my daughter, Princess Lyra," King Zorath said, his tone taking on a more personal note. "She is my only child and the heir to the throne of Eltara. She has been trained in the ways of diplomacy and leadership, and she is well versed in the matters of our kingdom." Princess Lyra approached Alex, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of curiosity and warmth. "Captain Mason," she said in a voice that was as soft as it was captivating, "it is a pleasure to meet you. My father has spoken highly of you and your people." Alex bowed slightly. "The pleasure is mine, Princess. Your world is truly remarkable." Lyra smiled, a gesture that seemed to light up the entire chamber. "I hope that in time, you will come to see Eltara as a second home." King Zorath stepped forward, his expression serious once again. "Captain Mason, as a sign of goodwill and to solidify our alliance, I offer you a unique opportunity. You may marry my daughter, Princess Lyra, and become a part of the Eltaran royal family." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Alex was stunned. Marriage? To the Eltaran princess? It was an offer he had never anticipated. He had come to Eltara to secure a trade deal, perhaps a military alliance. But this? "Your Majesty," Alex began, choosing his words carefully, "I am deeply honored by your offer, but I must admit this is an unexpected proposal." King Zorath nodded, as if expecting Alex's hesitation. "I understand, Captain. Such a union would be unprecedented, but it would also symbolize the strength of our alliance, an unbreakable bond between Earth and Eltara. It would ensure that our peoples stand together not just in times of war, but in times of peace as well." Alex glanced at Princess Lyra, who was watching him with an unreadable expression. The idea of marriage had never crossed his mind, certainly not in the context of an interspecies alliance. But he couldn't deny the logic behind the king's words. A marriage between himself and the princess would indeed create a powerful symbol of unity. But what about his life back on Earth? His career? The family he might have one day? Could he really commit to something so monumental, so life-altering on such short notice? As if reading his thoughts, Princess Lyra stepped forward, her voice gentle. "Captain Mason, I understand this is a difficult decision. My father and I do not wish to pressure you. We want what is best for both our peoples, but we also respect your autonomy." King Zorath folded his arms, his gaze unwavering. "Take some time to consider my offer, Captain. But remember, the Enthar are coming. Our alliance must be strong, stronger than any that has come before." Alex nodded, his mind racing. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will consider your offer carefully." With that, the king dismissed the audience, and Alex was led to a guest chamber within the palace. As he sat on the edge of the bed, staring out at the alien landscape beyond the window, he felt the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders. He had come to Eltara seeking an alliance, but what he had found was something far more complex, a choice that would not only shape the future of Earth and Eltara, but perhaps the fate of the entire galaxy. Alex sat in his guest chamber, the weight of King Zorath's offer heavy on his mind. The walls of the room shimmered with a soft, ambient light, giving the space an otherworldly calm. But inside, his thoughts were anything but peaceful. The door slid open silently, and Princess Lyra entered the room, her presence both delicate and commanding. She moved gracefully, the soft glow of her lavender skin reflecting off the crystalline walls. She approached Alex, who was still seated, and sat beside him, her eyes filled with understanding. "Captain Mason," she began softly, "I wanted to speak with you privately. I know my father's offer was sudden. It's not an easy decision." Alex nodded, turning to face her. "You could say that. I never expected this kind of proposal. An alliance, yes, but marriage." Lyra looked down at her hands, her expression contemplative. "I understand your hesitation. This isn't just about us. It's about our people, our futures. My father is a wise ruler, but he also knows how to wield symbolism as a weapon. Our marriage would unite our worlds in a way no treaty could." Alex ran a hand through his hair, sighing. "But what about you, Lyra? What do you want? Are you okay with this?" Lyra's gaze met his, her eyes glowing softly. "I've been prepared for this my entire life. In our culture, the duty to our people often comes before personal desires. But—" she paused, her voice becoming almost a whisper. "I do wish to know the person I might be bound to. I've read about humans, studied your culture, your history. You are a fascinating species. I want to understand you, Alex." Alex felt a strange mixture of relief and empathy. "I want to understand you too, Lyra, but this is all so fast. It's hard to make a decision when everything is on the line." She smiled gently. "Perhaps we can take this time to learn from each other. We don't need to decide everything now. There's still time before the Enthar become a real threat." The mention of the Enthar brought Alex's thoughts back to the looming danger. He had been trained as a soldier, a diplomat, but nothing in his training had prepared him for the threat of an enemy like the Enthar, or the possibility of marrying into an alien royal family. Suddenly a chime sounded from a panel on the wall. Lyra stood and moved to the console, her expression turning serious. "It's a communication from my father. He wishes to speak with us both." Alex rose from the bed, following her to the console. The holographic image of King Zorath appeared, his expression stern. "Captain Mason, Princess Lyra, there has been a development." Lyra's voice was calm but curious. "What is it, father?" Zorath's gaze shifted to Alex. "Our long-range sensors have detected an Enthar scout ship near our borders. This is sooner than we expected. If the scout has transmitted data back to its fleet, we may have less time than we thought." Alex's heart pounded. "What's our next move?" The king's image flickered slightly as he spoke. "We need to intercept the scout before it can relay any further information. I've ordered our fleet to engage, but I want you, Captain Mason, to accompany our forces. Your insight could be invaluable." Lyra looked at Alex, her expression unreadable. "This could be our first test, Alex. If we succeed, it will strengthen our position, our alliance." Alex nodded, the decision made for him. "I'll do it. I'll help however I can." "Very well." Zorath said, his tone approving. "Prepare yourself, Captain. You leave within the hour." The transmission ended, leaving Alex and Lyra in silence. She turned to him, her expression softening. "Be careful, Alex. The Enthar are unlike any enemy you've faced before." He smiled, trying to lighten the mood. "I've been in a few tight spots before. I'll be back." She smiled in return, though there was a hint of worry in her eyes. "I believe you. But the Enthar, they are beyond anything we know. They are relentless." An hour later, Alex stood on the bridge of an Eltaran warship, the Crystalline Spear, a vessel that gleamed with alien elegance and power. The Eltaran technology was light years ahead of anything humanity had, and as he watched the crew work, he couldn't help but feel both awe and a bit of envy. The fleet was already moving, sleek ships cutting through the void like blades. The tactical display showed the Enthar scout ship, a small dark vessel that looked almost organic in design, like a living creature more than a machine. "Captain Mason," the ship's commander, General Valrock, said, his voice deep and commanding, "we are approaching the target. We must destroy it before it can send any more data back to its fleet." Alex studied the display. The Enthar ship was fast, much faster than he expected. It darted through space, weaving between the Eltaran ships with unnerving agility. "General, we need to cut off its escape routes," Alex suggested. "Can we use our ships to corral it, force it into a corner where it can't maneuver?" Valrock considered this, then nodded. "An effective strategy. All units, form up around the target, cut off its escape." The Eltaran ships moved with precision, their engines flaring as they adjusted their positions. The Enthar scout ship seemed to sense the trap, its movements becoming more frantic. "Now," Alex urged, "hit it with everything you've got." The Crystalline Spear and the other ships opened fire, beams of energy lancing out toward the scout ship. The Enthar vessel tried to evade, but there was nowhere to go. The beams converged, and with a final desperate maneuver, the scout ship was engulfed in a brilliant explosion. Alex felt a surge of relief. "We got it!" Valrock nodded, but his expression remained grim. This was only a scout. The real threat is still out there. As the fleet regrouped, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The Enthar had revealed themselves, and now the clock was ticking. The alliance with Eltara was more important than ever, and so was the decision about his future with Lyra. Back on Eltara Prime, the palace was alive with the news of the victory, but Alex knew it was only a small battle in a much larger war. As he returned to his quarters, he found Lyra waiting for him, her expression a mix of relief and concern. "You're back," she said softly, stepping closer to him. He nodded, feeling the weight of the day's events. "We destroyed the scout, but the real fight is still ahead." Lyra looked into his eyes, her gaze intense. "Then we must be strong, Alex. Together." Alex realized then that the choice wasn't just about duty or politics. It was about survival, of their worlds, their people, and maybe something more. He reached out, taking her hand in his, feeling a connection that went beyond words. "Together," he agreed. The war with the Enthar was coming, but for now, they had each other. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. The aftermath of the battle hung in the air as Alex and Lyra stood together in the palace garden, the alien flora casting strange, beautiful shadows under the Eltaran moonlight. The tension between them was palpable, an unspoken understanding that their worlds were on the brink of something monumental. Lyra broke the silence, her voice barely more than a whisper. "The Enthar will retaliate. It's only a matter of time." Alex nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. "We need to prepare, fortify our defenses, and ensure that Earth and Eltara are ready for what's coming." She looked at him with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. "And what of us, Alex? What happens if we fail?" He didn't have an answer, not one that would ease her worries. Instead, he reached out, taking her hand. "We'll do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen." Before she could respond, a messenger approached swiftly, bowing low. "Princess Lyra, Captain Mason, King Zorath requests your immediate presence in the war chamber." They exchanged a glance, the brief moment of connection shattered by duty. Without another word, they followed the messenger through the winding corridors of the palace until they reached the war chamber, a massive room filled with holographic displays and maps of the galaxy. King Zorath stood at the center, surrounded by advisors and military officers. His expression was grave, his red eyes burning with determination. "Captain Mason, Princess Lyra," he began, acknowledging their arrival with a nod. "Our intelligence has confirmed that the Enthar fleet is on the move. They're preparing for a full-scale invasion." The room fell silent, the weight of the statement sinking in. Alex stepped forward, his voice steady despite the growing tension. "What's our plan, Your Majesty?" Zorath turned to the central hologram, which displayed the positions of both the Eltaran and Enthar fleets. "We have two options. Meet them head-on in open space, or draw them into a trap closer to Eltara. The former risks heavy losses, but the latter could give us a tactical advantage." One of the advisors, a grizzled Eltaran general, spoke up. "The Enthar are relentless. A trap may weaken them, but it's a gamble. If they see through it, we could lose everything." Alex considered the map, his military instincts kicking in. "What about Earth's forces? We could coordinate a pincer movement, strike them from both sides when they least expect it." Zorath's gaze shifted to Alex, a hint of approval in his eyes. "A bold strategy, but one that could work. It will require precise timing and flawless execution." Lyra, who had been silent until now, stepped closer to the map. "We can use the asteroid belt near Eltara as cover. Our ships could hide there, then ambush the Enthar as they approach. Combine that with Earth's forces, and we might catch them off guard." The king nodded, his mind made up. "Very well. We will proceed with this plan. Captain Mason, I'll need you to coordinate with your commanders back on Earth. Princess Lyra, you'll oversee the preparations here." Alex gave a sharp nod, his resolve hardening. "I'll make the necessary arrangements immediately." As the meeting concluded, Lyra lingered, her eyes locked on the hologram of the Enthar fleet. Alex approached her, sensing her unease. "We'll get through this," he said quietly. She looked up at him, her expression a mix of determination and fear. "I know we will, but if we don't, I just want you to know that meeting you, fighting alongside you, it means everything to me." He didn't hesitate. "It means everything to me, too." The days that followed were a blur of preparations and strategy sessions. The Eltaran fleet, now bolstered by the presence of Earth's forces, moved into position. Every ship, every weapon was honed to perfection, ready for the inevitable clash. When the Enthar fleet finally arrived, it was as if the stars themselves were swallowed by darkness. The alien ships were unlike anything Alex had ever seen. Massive, organic-looking structures that radiated a terrifying, malevolent energy. The battle began with a fury that shook the very fabric of space. Eltaran ships, sleek and agile, darted between the Enthar behemoths, unleashing volleys of energy that lit up the void. Earth's forces, with their advanced weaponry and tactics, struck from the flanks, hammering the Enthar with everything they had. But the Enthar were relentless. Their ships absorbed hit after hit, returning fire with devastating force. The asteroid field that had been meant as an ambush site became a chaotic battlefield, with debris and wreckage spinning wildly in all directions. Amidst the chaos, Alex found himself on the bridge of the crystalline spear, directing the battle with Lyra by his side. The ship shook violently as another blast rocked its shields, but they held firm, retaliating with precision strikes. "Focus fire on the lead Enthar ship," Alex ordered, his voice cutting through the din of alarms and status reports. "We need to break their formation." Lyra relayed the command, her calm under pressure a stark contrast to the destruction unfolding around them. "Targeting now. All units. Concentrate fire on the flagship." The combined firepower of the Eltaran and Earth ships converged on the massive Enthar vessel at the center of the enemy formation. For a moment, it seemed like the tide was turning. The Enthar flagship shuddered under the onslaught, its hull cracking, energy bleeding out into space. But then, with a surge of power, the Enthar ship retaliated, unleashing a devastating wave of energy that tore through the Eltaran ranks. Several ships were obliterated in an instant, their remains scattering like dust. "We're losing ships fast," an officer shouted, panic creeping into his voice. Alex gritted his teeth. They were so close, but the Enthar were proving to be as formidable as the legends had warned. Desperation clawed at him, but he refused to give in. "We need to overload the core," Lyra said suddenly, her voice calm but intense. "If we can get close enough, we can trigger a chain reaction that might destroy the flagship and disrupt their entire fleet." Alex hesitated only for a second. "It's a suicide mission." She met his gaze, her eyes fierce. "It might be our only chance." He nodded. The decision made. "I'll take a small team. We'll use a shuttle to get close, plant the charges, and get out before it blows." Lyra grabbed his arm. "I'm coming with you." "No," he said firmly. "I need you here, leading the fleet. You're the only one who can do this." Her grip tightened. "I'm not losing you, Alex." He softened, placing a hand over hers. "You won't. Trust me." The moments that followed were a blur of rapid action. Alex and a small team boarded a shuttle, slipping through the chaos of battle toward the massive Enthar flagship. The closer they got, the more apparent the scale of their task became. The ship was a fortress, bristling with defenses, but they had one advantage: the element of surprise. As they approached the ship's surface, the shuttle shook with the impacts of nearby explosions. Alex steeled himself, focusing on the mission. They landed on a jagged outcrop, the hull of the Enthar ship pulsing with an eerie organic glow. "Plant the charges here, here, and here," Alex instructed, pointing to key structural points. "We need to destabilize the core. We have 5 minutes to get back to the shuttle before this whole thing goes up." His team moved with precision, placing the charges as instructed. The tension was palpable, every second stretching into an eternity. Just as they finished, a sudden jolt rocked the entire structure. The Enthar ship was aware of their presence. "Move, now!" Alex shouted, leading the team back to the shuttle. As they launched away from the ship, Alex glanced back, watching the countdown on his display. 3, 2, 1. The explosion was like a star going supernova, a blinding flash of light that obliterated the Enthar flagship and sent shockwaves rippling through space. The Enthar fleet, now leaderless and disoriented, faltered. Back on the crystalline spear, Lyra watched the destruction unfold, a mix of relief and dread in her chest. "Alex, come in. Are you there?" There was a tense pause. Then his voice crackled over the comm. "We're here. We did it." The battle wasn't over, but the Enthar were in disarray. The combined forces of Earth and Eltara pressed the advantage, driving the invaders back. It was a hard-fought victory, but a victory nonetheless. When Alex finally returned to the crystalline spear, Lyra was waiting for him, her face a mixture of relief and anger. "You reckless fool," she said, but her voice was soft, her eyes filled with emotion. He grinned, exhausted but triumphant. "We won, didn't we?" She pulled him into a tight embrace, her worry finally giving way to relief. "Yes, we did. And now, we rebuild." The Enthar were defeated for now, but the war was far from over. Together, Alex and Lyra would face whatever came next, stronger for what they had been through, and ready for whatever the future held. The remnants of the Enthar fleet retreated, leaving a battered but victorious alliance in their wake. As the Eltaran and Earth forces regrouped, the sense of urgency shifted to rebuilding and preparing for the next inevitable conflict. In the war room, King Zorath, Alex, and Lyra reviewed the aftermath. Zorath's expression was stern, but there was a glint of respect in his eyes as he regarded Alex. "Your tactics saved us today, Captain, but the Enthar will return, stronger and more determined." "We need to strike first," Alex suggested, cutting through the tension. "Take the fight to them before they regroup." Lyra nodded in agreement. "We have intelligence on their staging areas. If we can hit them hard enough, we might cripple their operations." Zorath considered this. "It's risky but necessary. We must act swiftly." Alex and Lyra quickly mobilized a joint strike force. The target, a Enthar forward base deep within their territory, a critical hub for their fleet. The operation was simple in concept, but required flawless execution. The strike team, consisting of Earth's most advanced warships and elite Eltaran forces, slipped through Enthar space undetected. As they approached the base, Alex coordinated the attack. "Hit the command center first. Without leadership, their defenses will crumble. The assault was brutal and precise. Earth ships unleashed volleys of kinetic and energy weapons, tearing through the Enthar defenses. Eltaran fighters darted in and out, sowing chaos. Within minutes, the base's command center was obliterated, sending the Enthar forces into disarray. "Pull back," Alex ordered as the mission objectives were achieved. The Enthar base erupted in a series of massive explosions, the strike team escaping just as the shockwaves tore through the area. Back on Eltara Prime, the mood was one of cautious optimism. The strike had been a success, but everyone knew the war was far from over. Lyra found Alex in the garden, where they had first discussed their uncertain future. "We've dealt a significant blow to the Enthar," she said, her tone hopeful. Alex nodded, though his expression was grim. "We've bought ourselves time, but we need to stay vigilant. The Enthar won't take this lightly." Lyra reached for his hand, her touch grounding him. "We'll face whatever comes next together." He looked at her, seeing the resolve in her eyes. Together, a Enthar spy had infiltrated the palace. Alex and Lyra barely had time to react before the attack began. The alien assassin moved with inhuman speed, aiming to decapitate the Alliance by taking out its leaders. Alex grabbed a nearby energy blade, engaging the Enthar in a brutal close-quarters fight. The assassin was fast, almost too fast, but Alex's combat training and instincts kept him alive. The fight raged through the palace halls, the clash of weapons echoing off the crystalline walls. Lyra, quick-thinking and precise, activated the palace's defense systems. Energy barriers slammed down, trapping the assassin in a corridor with no escape. Alex saw the opportunity and struck with all his strength, the energy blade slicing through the Enthar's armor and ending the threat. The assassin collapsed, its life force fading, and Alex leaned against the wall, catching his breath. Lyra rushed to his side, her expression a mix of fear and relief. "That was close," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Alex nodded, wiping the sweat from his brow. "Too close. We need to tighten security. If they're sending assassins, they're getting desperate." Lyra agreed, her resolve hardening. "We'll fortify the palace and strengthen our defenses. The Enthar won't get another chance." Within hours, Eltara Prime was on high alert. Additional security measures were implemented across the planet, and Earth sent reinforcements to assist. The Alliance was more determined than ever, but the attempt on their lives made it clear. The Enthar would stop at nothing to destroy them. As night fell, Alex and Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the fortified city. The stars above a stark reminder of the battles yet to come. They knew the war was far from over, but as long as they stood together, they believed they could face whatever the Enthar threw at them. The Enthar launched their final assault, a massive fleet descending on Eltara Prime. The skies were filled with the glow of energy blasts and the burning wreckage of ships. The battle was fierce, more brutal than anything Alex and Lyra had faced before. On the front lines, Alex led the charge, his commands precise and unwavering. Eltaran and Earth forces fought side by side, their unity the only thing keeping them from being overwhelmed. Lyra, coordinating from the command center, directed the planet's defenses, her decisions swift and strategic. As the battle raged, Alex spotted the Enthar flagship, a monstrous pulsating entity that seemed more alive than machine. He knew that taking it down was the key to ending the fight. He rallied his squadron and made a direct assault on the flagship, dodging fire and weaving through the chaos. With everything on the line, Alex's ship broke through the enemy lines and delivered a final devastating blow to the flagship's core. The massive vessel erupted in a blinding explosion, sending shockwaves through the Enthar fleet. Their forces faltered, then began to retreat. The battle won. As the dust settled, Alex returned to the surface, battered but victorious. He found Lyra waiting for him, her face a mix of exhaustion and relief. They embraced, knowing they had survived the impossible. "The Enthar are defeated," Lyra said softly, her voice filled with hope. Alex nodded, his heart finally at ease. "It's over." They stood together, looking out over the ravaged but still standing city of Eltara Prime. The war was over, and the Alliance had held. Together they had forged a new future for their worlds, one built on trust, unity, and the unbreakable bond between them.